Welcome to the STS conference in Orlando in Florida. I'm delighted to be joined with two people who you may not know, but you know all about. This is Tim and Bridget Scanlan from Scanlan Instruments. Tim, you're the CEO, and Bridget, you're the Vice President, and your brother and sister. It's a real pleasure to have you here, and all the viewers that are watching here, they use your instruments every day, but they don't really know about the close connection between Scanlan and heart surgery. So it would be really great to hear from yourselves how it all started and about these connections. And I believe your grandfather started it in 1921. So perhaps, Tim, could you tell us about how he started the firm and how it all came about?
I'd be pleased to. My grandfather was a promoter, and he was always promoting some activity or another. And at this time, he was the manager of the U.S. speed skating champion, Bobby McLean. So at some point in time, he took Bobby McLean to Scandinavia, raced in Oslo, raced in Stockholm, and raced throughout Scandinavia. He raced the world champion, who was Oscar Mathieson. And during that time, he heard about this new kind of steel they were making in this little town in Sweden. So he took the train up to Eskilstuna, Sweden, and there was a little shop up there making something called rustless steel. We know it as stainless steel today. And my grandfather had some skates made for his racer. And we still have these skates, as a matter of fact. And I believe
we in fact have some photos here. Bridget, do you want to tell us about...
Well, this is a great picture of Pops. We called our grandfather Pops, and he's on the right side, along with Bobby McLean on the left, the speed skater. And then there's the next picture, Joel, if you would, and that's a picture of Pops at his desk. But here are the speed skates that were forged by the company that Pops visited. It's also the speed, the stopwatch that Pops used when he was timing Bobby during the races, and his pocket watch, that was Pops's. So these are all parts of our family's history and our company, so we have them in a beautiful shadow box at home.
So how did he bring this stainless steel back to America, and what did he do with it? What was the first thing he did?
Oh, it's very interesting because the maker of the skates said we can make other products out of this steel. And what he said was we can make scissors for surgery. So my grandfather didn't know anything about scissors or surgery, but he brought them back and he played bridge with Will and Charlie Mayo from Minnesota. And at that time, he showed, when he got back, he showed Will and Charlie the scissors that he was proposing that they look at, and they liked them. They needed some modification. But we started making the Mayo scissors for the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. They were the first stainless steel instruments in the world on the market at that time.
And I think, do we have some pictures even of these, the first sort of stand? Bridget, what was this?
That was the first exhibit that Pops showed at American College of Surgeons. And as you can see, we weren't making the delicate cardiac and vascular and thoracic instrumentation. They didn't save the limbs. They took them. So there were many orthopedic instruments that were first introduced with the non-rustable steel.
Yeah. So your grandfather was quite an innovator, quite a visionary, and it wasn't just surgical instruments that your stainless steel went into. I hear there's a few larger items out there.
Well, you know, he once he discovered that this was a pretty special material, he was granted the rights for stainless steel for the United States. So he owned the rights for all the stainless steel in the United States. Well, nobody really knew what to do with this material. One of his trips back and forth from Europe, he met Walter Chrysler. And Chrysler was talking about building a new headquarters in New York City. And my grandfather let him know what kind of material he had available. And so he sold him the stainless steel for the Chrysler building. And the rest is history. That beautiful building still stands.
We should call it the Scanlan Chrysler building, really, shouldn't
right.
we?
Sure.
And And he did put it to some amazing use as well, didn't he? I think we have, and this is him again, isn't it? With
He was managing Sonia Henny during the 30s, and when she was in the movies in Hollywood. In fact, Pop started to manage her for the Winter Olympics in 1936 at Garmisch-Partenkirchen, and that was a picture when he was there, when they were there.
Yeah. So, and here's another amazing photo
It's
with at a nursing conference with one
Right.
of the nurses there. So, tell us about this. This is another amazing use that he put stainless steel to, isn't it?
Well, Pops's friend, Fred Snight Sr., had a son, Fred Snight Jr., and he contracted polio during a college trip to China. And he came back and he had to be put in an iron lung. And here was this young man, vibrant and young and in his prime. And Pops saw this, and when he would make calls in the hospitals, also see children stuck in these iron lungs during this terrible polio scourge. So Pops said there's got to be a way to get them out of that. So what Pops did was start to make a small portable respirator to allow parents to cuddle and snuggle their kids and let them wiggle their toes, and adults to get out and be able to be in a family. And that was very important, and that's what Pops made. And I think you have the next.
Yeah. So, and this guy actually got up, and he had quite an
did.
active life, I hear.
Yes.
Well, Fred was Fred Snight Jr. Was finally got out of the iron lung and was married and had 4 children, and he led a very active life. There's a library at Notre Dame University with his name on it. He made a lot of money and donated a lot of money to Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's amazing. It must have been such an awful thing to be in these lungs, and so transformational. It's amazing, isn't it? Even these little
Yes,
babies
the little babies.
managed to have their lives saved by
But you
by
could
him.
see that we were always going to exhibits. So that was started by Pops very early on, and so that was part of our lives, still is very important.
Yeah. So that was your grandfather, but there was a second generation coming, wasn't there? How did he rope in his son into the business?
Well, my father was going through college, and he would be with Pops, and he would be watching everything he did. And Pops said, "Okay, now it's time for you." And Dad hit the road, and he went all over the United States helping Pops sell the instruments. And that's something that is still a cherished tradition in our family. We've always gone to see our customers and face to face and our friends and visit that way. And that's what Dad did. And he really started to make great relationships all over with his visits.
So it was your father really that started linking with cardiac surgeons, wasn't it? So,
Actually, it started with my grandfather at the University of Minnesota. When C. Walton Lillehei was a resident there, Pops got to know him and started working with him on some products. And then, of course, brought in my father. When I was a kid, we would go to my grandparents' house, Pops's house, and in the kitchen, the men would be in the kitchen. My grandmother would always say, "Don't bother the men; they're in the kitchen." And during those times, there were C. Walt Lillehei and Richard Varco, and people like the founder of Medtronic, Earl Bakken would be there. These Manny Villafana, those kinds of people would be all gathering together, scheming on the next thing to save lives. So it was a pretty special time.
yeah, it's amazing. Let's have a look and see what we have pictures-wise. So tell us about this.
Well, one thing, when Dad started to work with so many of the surgeons, he would also find that the nurses had many things that they needed. And he also realized how important they were in the surgical team. So Dad started to exhibit at the nurses' meetings and how important that was, because they would say to my father, "This is what we need. We don't want the surgeons using umbilical twill to retract ureters or veins and arteries. We need them to, you need to make something for that." And Dad made Surgiloops, which is a really great product all over.
Yeah. I mean, that interaction between heart surgeons and the creators of the instruments has been key even to this day, hasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. So, so I hear this is an interesting little picture, and you're creating something rather new here.
That's
Tell us
right.
about this.
Well,
Who's this?
This is a Christmas Christmas night at our home, and that's the way my dad and I operated. We were always working on something or another, new product of some type or another. This product happens to be the old skin stapler from U.S. Surgical. We were the first distributor for the U.S. Surgical stapling device. The first staples in the world. They were always sewing otherwise, and now stapling in many of the areas.
Yeah.
But we worked together on so many things. We were 24/7, just like we are today, always thinking about new products and new ways of doing things.
Yeah, and actually Scanlan created the first stapling devices before all these ones that we see today.
Well, we were one of the first distributors, that's right. It was U.S. Surgical, and now Covidian is who has it.
And that handsome guy on the left that doesn't look bored at all in that picture, who was that?
I'm afraid that's myself. That's right. Just a few years ago.
But I like that picture because it was a collaboration that was always very important that makes Scanlan what we are today,
Yeah.
Dad and Tim.
Yeah, let's have a little look through here. Wow, who's that dashing person, and what conference is that?
That was our full staff at that meeting. That was myself back in probably maybe at the STS meeting in 1969 or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was
fantastic.
It was pretty
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. So we'll have a little look through here, and this is your father,
Yep.
isn't it? And also in the war, he was in the Air Force, wasn't he?
Yes, he was in the 8th Air Force during World War II. He ran up B-17 base in Elkinbury, England, and then he started the 8th Air Force Historical Society after World War II, and that was very important to him.
Yeah. We've got a nice picture of him with Walton Lillehei, and he was very involved with him, wasn't he?
Not only was Walt a good friend, he was a neighbor also, but when he was doing all these important surgeries at the U, he really needed a good partner. And he went to Pops and Dad and said, I need these instruments. These babies are tiny. I need something that nobody is making. And of course, it was a great opportunity, and the friendship blossomed, of course, and making us be able to make all of these instruments for them, visiting all the different heart centers all over too, knowing that they had a need also.
Yeah, and you've actually brought some of the first coronary scissors, and
This was our first prototype of the circumflex scissors, which was very important because they were using a Metzenbaum and turning the heart over literally to cut if they were doing the left anterior descending or the circumflex. But this is a design for today, so you can see the difference in the tips, in the blades.
on the size.
much-
My God, I'm not
how
sure
much
many of my
finer.
75-year-olds would manage that, those larger scissors. So I'm glad there's been a little bit of development there.
That's
For
right.
sure. Let's have a little look at here. So you are a multi-generation company, and this is a picture. Maybe tell us about this picture here. You can-
Well, that was maybe 1991, and I'm glad because Dad had passed in 93. So we had this great family picture of the business and all of us.
And you?
And Tim and Joe, our brother, and Dad, and yes, me.
And obviously the generations continue, don't they?
Yes.
So you started with your grandfather and your father and yourselves that have worked,
Yes.
and you have a further generation, don't you?
Yeah, we're going to the 4th generation now.
Will there be a 5th generation?
Well, as a matter of fact, my granddaughter has just started working in the business as well. She's working in the administration office, and she's 21 years old, and she would be the 5th generation. So we're really very blessed. We really enjoy it. It's great stuff.
Yeah, but you've made such an amazing range of instruments. I mean, one thing that we take for granted now is single-use instruments, but Scanlan really created that, didn't they?
Yes.
As well.
Well, in so many ways, as I said, with the Surgiloops that Dad made for all those people that said, look, we need the right thing, the right product. Surgiband color coding was another thing when everybody had their instruments getting mixed up. The Surgiband color coding helped them to track all the instruments. Our Vascustat single-use bulldogs, it's a single-use surgical instrument, and it's so important. And but I think the whole point is too, we listen to our customers and ask, what more can we do for you? How can we help you have the best clinical outcomes?
Yeah, and even today you work with surgeons creating new instruments, don't you? Diego Gonzalez Rivas, you've created new instruments for him. And I mean, what's the future? What's on the horizon? Can you give us any big scoops?
Well, you know, we were the first with stainless steel, working with surgeons, I mean, all the way back from some of the giants in surgery, whether they were in neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, cardiovascular surgery. You name the giants, and we've worked with them. And we go into the operating room with them, find out what their concerns are. Stainless steel, then after that, we started with titanium. We're the first instrument company making our instruments out of titanium. Today we're starting to make things out of nitinol, surgical instruments out of nitinol. Nitinol is a metal that has a memory, so you can angle it and turn it the way you want, and then put it in the autoclave, and it comes back to its original shape. So you'll be seeing more of those happening as the future unfolds.
Fantastic, and it's fantastic to know that you're a family firm with a close tie to heart surgery. But just perhaps in closing, I mean, what is it that makes the family firm so special and so important in your business that sets you apart really from the big multinationals? What would you say?
Well, I think we are a company that's old, 93 years old, but we react like a young and new company. We never forget our roots, but we remember there's something new and something that somebody needs us to make that's different, and we just keep moving ahead. And our family is in the business, but our whole company is a family. We are all family. So it's not about blood. It's about who has the dream, who has the passion and the drive. And that's how we keep going. It's our baby, and we love it.
I think the passion is so important because, you know, we're past, after 93 years and 4 generations, we're past the worrying about exactly, you know, chasing the buck. What we're interested in is making the best. And that's what our company is based on, being the best we can possibly be. We know that these instruments are made for your kids, your parents, and loved ones. It's our responsibility to make the best instruments in the world. And that's what we're looking to do.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both. So from myself, Joel Dunning, everyone at CTSNet, I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed for coming to talk
Thank
to
you,
us.
Joel.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very
It was
much.
a pleasure.
Pleasure.